Perfect. Lisa, would you like to check if you're able to share your screen?
I'm working on that as we speak. Okay, I will go ahead and get us the screen up. Okay, can you guys see the screen now? Is everything okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
How's everyone is doing? How's your day going so far?
Good. Doing fine.
One day closer to the
Okay.
weekend. Oh, yes, it's good.
Yes. Awesome. So we are on time. And hello, everyone. I'm Deepali, and I head the Allyship at Women in Streaming Media. So welcome to our first Ally of the Month call for this year. Women in Streaming Media Network spans globally, and with the different time zones in mind, this call is recorded for convenient viewing, ensuring everyone can learn as per their convenience. And let's start on time so that we cover everything. Let's talk about the agenda. Today's agenda, it's packed with exciting content as always. First, I will briefly introduce the Women in Streaming Media Network and the Allyship program, especially for our new members. Next, Lisa will introduce you to today's Ally of the Month, and following that, we will have engaging, exciting AMA session with the guest. We do have curated questions, but feel free to ask anything using chat window as the call progresses. And finally, we will conclude the call by sharing our upcoming event details for this month and next month. So let's get started. With the new members joining us quite often, let me quickly introduce the Women in Streaming Media Network and our Allyship program. As a global networking organization, our mission is to increase diversity and give more visibility to women leaders within the streaming media space. Our membership is completely free and offers the opportunity to connect with supportive community across all areas of streaming media industry and related industries. Our speaking engagement team provides women in streaming media members platform to showcase their experience and contribute to the industry discussions. We have played a key role in placing the female leaders worldwide on panels, and we were one of the finalists at Corporate Star Awards in 2024. Our education pillar is empowering women in streaming media by offering the resources and opportunities for growth at every stage of career. And I'm happy to share that we launched our new Women in Streaming Media education podcast series this month by Polly, who is heading our education pillar. Our award-winning mentorship program is based on foundation of education, connect, and empower. 2024 was our sixth cohort, and mentorship program is completely free for our members. So quickly about our Allyship program for the new members. We launched the Allyship program in January 2024, exactly a year ago, to create a supportive network of advocates in the streaming media industry. With our Allyship program, we are creating network of allies to lead by example. And every month we connect on Ally of the Month call to highlight the amazing individual leaders in the streaming media industry who actively support diversity, equity, and inclusion. Basically, to recognize and celebrate their efforts. Acknowledge the impact by demonstrating how individual actions contribute to positive change at the workplace. And emphasis on the importance of the allyship in the creating supportive and inclusive environment building an inclusive culture within the streaming media industry. We are also creating awareness using these sessions to help everyone to understand the concept of allyship and kind of emphasis that allyship is everyone's responsibility and share the best practices. This is the opportunity for our allies to share their experience and allyship strategies that others can implement in their workplaces. It shows that others um, it shows others what's possible by sharing the real and everyday examples in allyship in action to encourage the positive behavior. Keep the conversation around DI throughout the year actively and ensure it remains the priority throughout the year in the streaming media industry. We actually foster the collaboration, connect the employees with like-minded individuals across the teams to encourage the collective efforts. And it sets a benchmark for other men, showing how to be an effective ally with consistent efforts. And we would love to see more leaders in the streaming media industry stepping up to lead by example. The best part is our allyship program offers flexible structure like AMA session or panel discussion or workshop and knowledge sharing sessions. All right, now it's time to introduce our ally of the month. Wait is over. Let's meet this month's alive guest. And Lisa, over to you.
Thank you. Okay, so Happy New Year, everyone. I'm Lisa Craig, and I'm excited to introduce you to our first Women in Streaming Ally of 2025, Jason Thibeault. And I hope I have that correct, Jason.
Yeah.
He is the Chief Executive Officer at SVTA, the Streaming Video Technology Alliance, which is the international technical association focusing on solving critical challenges in delivering high-quality video streaming at scale. He is a recognized expert, a voice expert in the streaming industry, and is contributing editor to the Streaming Media magazine. Prior to his role, Jason spent 8 years at Limelight Networks, a leading CDN where he held several roles, including product manager and marketing strategist. He's also the co-founder of DataZoom, a startup focused on high-speed data collection and automation, and acting CMO of Blockcast, a next-generation decentralized multicast CDN. He's also an inventor of over a dozen technical patents in streaming and cloud technologies and the co-author of one marketing book, Recommend This. Putting that on my rating list, by the way. In his personal life, he is an avid reader with over 3,000 books in his house and even published his first and only novel in high school. He loves to travel and has visited over 50 states. What's left? You'll have to tell us, right? There's 51, right? Or no?
There is 51, but let's call Puerto Rico 51.
Okay.
I've not been to Puerto Rico.
Okay. You've not been to Puerto Rico. Wow. Okay. Over 30 countries and warranting him to have 5 different passports. He's an amazing photographer with a gallery of the most unbelievable pictures from his worldly travels. It's definitely worth checking out because I just got lost looking at all the beautiful pictures.
I appreciate that.
We have to share that. If that's not enough, he's also found time to coach youth ice hockey for the past 15 years. Based in Dallas, Texas, but working worldwide, please warmly welcome Jason Thibeault. So good day, Jason. Thank you for joining us today. We have prepared some questions for you, focusing on allyship. We would also like to invite our guests to that could join us live today to post questions in the chat as we go. So we will take those as we go.
Fantastic.
So thank you for coming. So I'm going to just turn this off so that we can actually get you in full screen.
All right.
So we'll do that.
Fantastic.
So there you go. Okay, so I see some of the 3,000 books. You must be at home in Dallas this week.
I am home. Yes, it's I don't actually have to start traveling until next week, where I'm planning to go to the Montevideo summer camp in Uruguay. But I may not be able to go. My wife had knee surgery right before Christmas, like Christmas Eve, and her recovery is taking a bit longer time. So we got to figure out if that's going to happen. But till then, I'm here in Gilead. Oh, I mean Texas. I mean Dallas. Yeah. I don't share the politics of this state at all, so it's a little inside running joke that we call this place Gilead.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start throwing some questions out at you. So first,
All right.
can you share, please share with us what allyship means to you, especially in the context of leadership within the streaming media industry?
Ooh, okay. So I think allyship to me really means working collaboratively with people who are what I'll call sort of marginalized voices, historically marginalized voices like women, right? Women of color, people of color. And allyship means working with them to try and improve the situation within the industry so that we can include more of those voices that have, again, historically been marginalized. So allyship really means, giving what I can and offering help where I can, being proactive when I can. So, for example, the SVTA's, position on DEI and our commitment to increasing the inclusivity of all of our events, our working group leadership, our segments conference, our member meetings, that was pushed by me, right? So I realized, I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, that we needed to be proactive. We just couldn't be, hey, we're here, you can reach out to us when maybe you need some help. It was like, no, we have to get out there and be active. And so, we put together our statement on inclusivity. We started making it a point that our goal was to increase our leadership. It was great a couple of years ago. Alicia Pritchett, from Fastly, was voted to the board. So we had our first woman board member. That was great. Then she became board president. That was fantastic. But we tried to increase leadership across our working groups as well. So we look actively for women leaders who want to come in and address these challenges. So we were just, again, allyship to me is collaboration, but it really means to be proactive rather than just reactive.
Love that. Thank you. Now, can you share an example of a time when you saw allyship led to a significant positive change in your professional journey?
Ooh. Wow, that's a great question. Thinking about that, probably over the past, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years, I've seen people in our industry, again, be proactive, folks that were actively taking a part. I remember when Women in Streaming Media started and launched at IBC, we stepped up to sponsor the coffee event, right? It was like, okay, let's this is fantastic. I love this. Let's get involved early. Let's make sure that they know that they have an ally with the SVTA. Well, at the time it was the SVA. And I think that was kind of a defining moment for me for allyship in our industry, is to see this organization come together and realize, okay, we have an opportunity here to champion this, to really accelerate it and push it forward and help where we can. And again, looking for opportunities to help, not just being available. So, that led to our own sort of DEI statement and our stance and our position on increasing our own inclusivity and our own diversity within our membership and within our leadership. So I think that was, as I'm talking, I think that was probably the biggest defining moment, was to see people stepping up when Women in Streaming Media launched. Eric Schumacher Rasmussen saying, like, raising his hand, and he and I talked about, it's like, we need to help, like, we need to get involved and help. And so I think that was kind of a defining moment in our industry, to see Women in Streaming Media come together and to see the people standing up, the allies standing up saying, we want to help.
And we so appreciate your willingness to do that and step up on behalf of us women in the streaming media. So thank you very much for that.
You're welcome. And we actually did something. So we have at our SVTA, we have a SME program, and we have liaisons. And so I had been speaking with Thibeault last year, and was like, listen, we know our member companies have lots of women engineers. They're working on projects. They're doing things like Florence at Sky. These people are doing amazing work, but they're not coming to our member meetings, even though their companies are members. And so Thibeault and I were talking about this. It's like, listen, let's form a liaison with Women in Streaming Media, and let's figure out how to get some of the folks in your organization to come and participate in our groups, who may not be part of member companies. And so we did that, and I think a few people have started to come and participate, which is fantastic. So we're, again, we're committed to being proactive about this and trying to figure out ways where we can get more women involved in the stuff that we're doing.
That's amazing. Thank you. Okay, in your experience, how does allyship influence overall company culture and decision-making processes?
Yeah, so it's kind of touched upon that, right? It's for me, it's a big influence. I would really love to get our board diversified. It's, we'll just be honest, right? It's a bunch of white guys. And we need to change that. And it's hard, right? It's not easy to say like, hey, can you go find a woman in your organization and step aside and let her come on the board? That's a difficult conversation to have. It needs to be had sometimes, and our board's aware of it. They're aware of like, we really need to diversify our leadership here. And so at least we've started at the working group chairs level, which is we need to bring in more women to be leaders in our working group chairs. So we have Florence, Kay Fu, and our security group is absolutely fantastic. We've even invited some SMEs in to be leaders. So Rebecca Avery for our metadata group. We want more women leaders. And again, it all comes down to helping, like we need our member companies to help us find these people in their organizations that we can bring in. And so that's, we've rooted it in our culture. Segments, when we launched segments, we had a mandate right from the beginning. We want 50% of our speakers to be diversified. And we know that there are, really amazing people out there, and they're just not getting a chance to come and speak, and they're not getting a chance, to really be heard. And so we wanted to make sure, no, if we're going to do segments, we're going to make sure that it includes this very fundamental, proactive approach. We're gonna make sure our speakers are diversified, and so we do that with our webinars now. We do that with practically every part of our organization. Even our grant member companies, right? So we just we're getting ready to announce our latest slew of grant member companies. One of the scoring criteria for getting an award is diversification, right? So is this startup run by traditionally marginalized voice? So is it women led? Is it women of color led? Is it people of color led? How is this company representing diversification? And so we actively use that as one of the scoring criteria. So again, it's really, I've worked really hard to bake it into our culture, and we will continue to do that. Again, being proactive rather than reactive.
That is unbelievable. So we don't often hear that. So it's really great to hear that you're pushing to have those things in place. So, speaking of that, so you're talking about, that is a criteria for getting the awards, but are there other ways that you're tracking metrics around how people are participating?
So the answer to that is yes and no. We're not a huge number of people participating. So traditionally, organizations like ours, whether it's SMPTE or IETF or W3C or whatever, a large amount of the work is done by a very small population within the membership. It's kind of the 80-20 rule, right? Like 80% of the work is done by 20% of the people. And because of that, it's much easier for us to keep track of and see who is participating. So we acknowledge all of our participants, for example, when they work on a document, they're all acknowledged in the document on the contributors page. So we know who is actively participating. And that, when we look at that, that can lead us to like, oh my gosh, the last 4 documents from this group have all been done by these same people, and we need better diversity. So we don't necessarily track with metrics. We do it, on a case-by-case basis, but we're constantly looking at it and then realizing or figuring out, oh my gosh, hey, there was a new, woman participant. This is fantastic. Let's talk to her and get her involved more and make sure that she, continues to stay involved. But then, we lose people, right? So for example, DAZN joined last year, and that was really driven by Cora Spear. And it was great. I was like, oh man, I'm really excited to bring Cora in. Let's have her, do some stuff here and be a leader here and all that. And then she reaches out to me near the end of the year and says, I just want to let you know I'm leaving DAZN. It's like, oh, man. So, we try to keep track of how well we're doing in terms of diversification, but it's not anything quantifiable that we publish or anything like that. It's really, it's not necessarily anecdotal, but it is a little bit more, qualitative than it is quantitative.
Great. So we often hear about people wanting to be supportive of allyship, but sometimes, people often, they talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk, right? So how do you see both individuals and leaders in the industry performing it as a trend or an obligation? So how do they sustain that versus just, we'll do this one-off thing and then, we'll check the box and move on?
Well, and that's you said it, the nail on the head right there. Check the box. Oh, I just got to check the box. Okay, I did it. All right, now I can go do the rest of the work I have to do. And I think that's part of the problem is, in order for these programs to really take root culturally, like to take root as part of this is the way we do business, it has to be more than just a reactive thing. Oh, let's go figure out how to bring more women in. Okay, we did that. All right, now let's go back and do our work. So people are busy, right? Everybody's busy. Everyone has a day job. Everyone's, we're constantly scrambling. I mean, look at the tech industry, right? We fire a bunch of people, and then where does the work fall? On all the rest of the people that are still there. And so it's really hard for somebody to say, okay, I'm going to push my work aside for a little bit so I can concentrate on this program, on helping women have a better voice and say, be more involved, be more engaged. I'm going to push aside my normal work and I'm going to focus on this. And that's the issue, is it's just another thing on a task list instead of being part of the way that they do their work. And so once that becomes, let's say part of the cultural DNA of the way somebody does their work, then it's really, until that happens, it's really just a checklist item. So, my advice to people out there, to men out there in our industry, it's like, you need to figure out a way to fold allyship into the very way you approach your work. And that's, again, something when I talk about, like, we look at segments, we're going to start a new project. Okay, how are we incorporating bringing more women and people of color into this process? How are we doing that? That's one of the first questions that we're asking. We're not waiting to get to the end and saying like, okay, look at this program's really great. We launched it. It's cool. Okay, now let's figure out how to get more women involved. Well, we should have done that way back at the beginning. And so that's what, my advice to men who want to help and who, again, it's want, but feel the need and the desire and understanding that this is necessary. Like, cultural change is a marathon, not a sprint. And so the sprint approach is check the box. The marathon approach is, how do I make this part of the very way that I approach my work and approach my industry and approach my colleagues, so that everything I'm doing this is part of that conversation that I'm having. It's not, let me do the work and then get to an afterthought of how do I include more women. It's like, let me constantly be thinking about this because it's important at every step of the way.
Wow. If only we could have more people like you.
And again, I'm not perfect. I fail sometimes. Like, I may get to a process and halfway through realize I did not think about diversity enough. Like, we need to go back and do this. And that's the thing is, we all stumble and we need to figure that out. And again, it's a marathon, right? So we're all trying to hopefully get better as we move forward. But it starts with that. I want to be a part of this, not just react to it. And if I'm going to be a part of it, then I have to think about it all the time going forward.
So, Jason, you've had the good fortune of being involved in 5 startup companies, getting those developed and set up. So while we see the big companies have more space and resources to set up programs around DEI and allyship, what would you say about these small startup companies? How can they make an impact?
Oh, yeah. Wow. It obviously starts with the company itself. Again, if it's baked into the culture early on. So I'll talk about DataZoom, right? So Diane Strutner and I started DataZoom back in 2016. And, we went through this process of, ramping the company up and building it out and doing these things. And we were out pitching to angels. So she and I would go and co-pitch. And there came a question when Diane and I sort of sat down one day and it was like, who's going to be CEO? And I was, you know what? There's not enough women leaders in tech in this industry. You go do it. And I think you should be CEO. And she was like, you know what? I have always wanted to be a CEO. It's been a dream of mine. So like, I'm going to take this and I'm going to run with it. And she's done an absolutely fantastic job. And that was, even at that point in my career, it's just sort of baked into the DNA and culture of that organization. And so that was really important. And that's how startups begin. They have to begin with this in mind. And Blockcast, for example, very diversified, right? So there's one woman there, Lisa. There's Omar, who's Egyptian. This is not a traditional startup, and it's fantastic. It brings different perspectives. And so every startup should be looking for those perspectives. How can I bring other people and these voices into my startup? Sometimes it's not practical. You found a company with a group of people that you're very close with and working with already, and that's just what it happens. But then at that stage, it's like, okay, let's make sure that we are inclusive at this stage and start to find those different voices to bring other perspectives, because that's only going to make our startup better.
Wow, that's very selfless of you to offer that. And admirable to allow that.
No, I mean, but I don't want it to be seen like that. I was like, oh, I was given this gift to Diane. Diane's a very good, capable leader. She had a great vision, and it was like, you know what? I think you would be fantastic to run with this. And so I was like, I don't want to be CEO. At that time in my life, I was like, no, I'm not a CEO. Like, I don't want this responsibility. I've done this before. I don't want to do it again. And I'm in a different state in my career in my life now. So back then it seemed like it was very, both I want to support her as a woman leader in tech, and then I'm also looking out for myself. Like, I don't, this is not for me at this point. So this great that you want to do this. Awesome. Our company's not going to be floundering and figuring out who's the leader. You're taking the reins and running with it. So that's been very good.
Great. Okay, so now moving on to empowerment. What's your advice to leaders to ensure diverse voices are not only included, but also empowered and heard in the streaming media space?
We've got to stand up for them. So again, back to the checkbox thing, right? If you're just checking a box to say, oh, okay, are there any women who can participate? Okay. All right. Well, it doesn't look like it. Okay. So let's move on. No. Go find those women, go find those voices, bring them in, be their champion, right? Especially for those, like, again, for us white guys in power, like, it's a terrible thing to say, but that's, the state of it. So I'm a white man in a leadership position. I need to do more than just say the words. I need to talk with women and figure out, hey, what do you want to accomplish here? What can I help you accomplish? What are your goals? What do you want to do? How do you want to be not only represented here, but involved here? What can I do to, like, as you said, empower you to be successful? And obviously that takes commitment. It's, if you're just saying the words like, oh, I'm a CEO, I'm committed to DEI, and then, I just say that because it's expected of me to say. It's like, no. You back to that DNA thing. You've got to embody it. You've got to want this to happen. I want women to be more representative. I mean, to be honest, I think the problem with the world is it's run by men, right? That's the issue. Look at history. Who starts all the wars? Okay, like, we should be having more women in leadership, more women in positions of authority and control, because, to be honest, men are just bad at it, right? They're to be honest, they're very focused on power, right? There's that old saying, like, what do men with power want? More power. Like, no, we just need less of that. We need more. Let's bring more voices in so that we can all be kind and respectful to each other and just treat each other like people who want to succeed, and make sure that we're honoring each other's goals and objectives. So you really have to, for leaders, if there's any leaders out there listening to this that are men, like, you have to inject this into your very ethos. It has to be who you are, to want to go and find people to empower them. And that is really what I want to do. I want to see women in positions of leadership feeling like they have what they need to succeed, and that they have allies throughout the industry to help them be successful.
So that is that's a great goal, I think, for all of us to just to have that in place. So what can men do and other women do to educate themselves about the unique challenges that women face in the streaming industry so that they can raise awareness and, without placing burden or anything on women? What can we do to help educate them?
Yeah, that's part of the thing, right? So we talk about this in just general sort of like cultural discussions. We talk about this idea that it shouldn't be a woman's responsibility to educate a man on why she would rather be with the bear than the guy in the forest, right? So it's our job as men to understand what is it like to be a woman in this industry, trying to jockey for respect and position and authority when the very system is stacked against her. And so, what men need to do is they need to, again, be proactive. You're not like saying, I'm an ally, and then you're waiting for women to come to you to say, like, hey, can you help me? No. You're an ally. And so you're looking out across the industry and you're looking out across your company and you're saying, who can I go help? Like who can I go and make sure that they have an opportunity to have their voice heard and they have an opportunity to be supported in trying to get this position or to get this project? Like what can I do? And again, I'm not perfect. I don't do this all the time. I get busy. I've got some other issues that tend to focus me on things that are interesting to me, and so I have to constantly break myself out of that mold to say, like, oh, okay, whoops, like I need to go be proactive. Like I need to go find women and make sure that they understand, like, hey, I know you have a hard time in this industry, and you have a hard time in tech as well, just as in general. How can I help? How can I give you what you need? And so that's what we really need to do. Is men need to be, again, proactive. Go ask questions, understand what it means to be a woman in the tech industry, like streaming video, understand the challenges they face in terms of being heard, and then take that in. Like don't just, okay, I asked you the questions, check, like I did my part. Like no, you didn't do your part yet. You're on the way to understanding, but understanding then provides you an opportunity to be and take action, right? So now you're like, okay, I understand. I feel like I understand the details. I may not understand the emotional impact of it because I'm not a woman. I'm not in that position, but I understand the details as they're being communicated. Now, what can I do? What can I actively go do to improve the situation?
So let me ask you, Jason, you have, was there a turning point for you in your early career or middle or later part of your career that triggered you to have these feelings? So we can understand, or have you grown up with a mom that pushed this in your, in your growing up times? I'm just trying to understand how did you get to be so open-minded about this topic?
Yeah, so it's a little of both. My mom was a biomedical consultant for a long time. So she was an expert witness for the FDA. She was a powerful woman out there telling CEOs of biotech firms when their processes were crap. Like, and they had to listen to her because she was the one who was saying, like, if you want to get FDA approval, you better follow this process. And I got to see that, right? So it was it was fantastic to be able to watch, my mom, a woman, be successful. And I'm sure, oh my gosh, I'm sure she faced a lot of uphill challenges and battles, and she was constantly fighting against, what would have been men's opinions, and upward mobility. I think that's probably why she actually became a consultant, so that she could just go make her own way. And so seeing that probably laid a lot of the groundwork for an open mind about this. But I'm so fundamentally about equality. I don't know. It's just reading a lot of philosophy, reading, a lot of books. I think a book for me that was a true turning point in college was W.E.B. Du Bois' The Souls of Black Folk. So this book, written for a very specific reason, just gave me this perspective about seeing yourself through other people's eyes. And it like was, I'm totally just blew open my whole perspective on the world. Like, why should people have to imagine themselves as something based on how they think other people view them? Like, oh no, like just, so women, unfortunately, in our culture are forced to see themselves as women through the eyes of men. Oh, just no. Like, again, if we just all treated each other with respect and kindness and dignity, God, the world would be such a better place. It just really would be. And so that my philosophy around that has just hardened over the years. We need equality. We need to treat people equally. We need to stop this whole hierarchy, social chain, ladder, alpha, beta stuff. Just wipe it off the map. Just, respect the fact that people are different, love different perspectives, like truly. And travel has probably helped a lot with that. Again, having visited 30 countries and lived in some for a while and been around different cultures and understanding, wow, there are so many different perspectives. And when we have different perspectives, it makes everything better. So, yeah, so it's really a combination of, having grown up in a very specific environment and then really just exploring and thinking and understanding, that equality is truly the thing that we need to strive for as a human culture. And, it doesn't just exist in industry, right? It's in every part of our lives. We need to figure out how to make this happen.
Amazing. Okay, so I'd like to kind of flip over to DEI for a minute. So while the landscape surrounding DEI is constantly evolving and companies are continuously adapting their approaches, I want to touch on some recent changes and impact. So news reports indicate that several major companies, including Meta, Ford, McDonald's, and Walmart, have scaled back or ended their diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Can you please share your thoughts on why companies may be pulling back and the impact of doing this?
Trump, like, let's be honest, in the US, it's Trump, right? Those companies are probably going to want to jockey for government support or, basically not run afoul of regulators. If you don't run afoul of Trump, then, your company's better off, right? And so when you talk about really big corporations, they're all doing shady stuff, or they all want to do something and they want to cash in a chip later. So if they're not appearing to be, favoring the DEI programs, then they won't run afoul of Trump and his organization. It's an awful, awful, awful situation. The impact of it is it communicates to, the world at large that equality doesn't matter, right? This is all just BS. Like, it's a meritocracy. Anybody in the US who believes that anything is a meritocracy here, seriously, like, go get your head checked. Like, this is not a meritocracy. If you're a white man, you're at the top of the totem pole, and if you're not, you're at the bottom. And that's the way it is. And so DEI was this, again, a cultural attempt to change that. Like, let's incorporate programs into the companies, these big giant corporations that permeate our lives so that we can make the world better. And you just, like, let's look at Zuckerberg, right? He turned into a little, like, Eminem wannabe. He's like a little white rapper gangster with the chain and the t-shirt, and it's like manosphere. God, just my head explodes just trying to wrap it around these figures that have so much influence in these companies. Like, just treat people with kindness, respect, and dignity. That's there was that poster. I don't know if everyone remembers it. Maybe dating myself, but there was, like, all I needed to know in life I learned in kindergarten. And it was this poster, and it was based on a book. And it was this poster, and it was just like, don't hit others, treat each other with kindness. And it was just all these basic things about, wow, if we were just really decent to each other, life would be better. And so, yeah, so unfortunately, these big corporations cutting back, and especially in the US, where unfortunately, most of our population equates success with money. These big corporations and these leaders who are making scads of money, they say like, no, DEI's garbage. Like, we're going to end this program. Like they're basically cozying up to the Trump administration coming in because they need something in return. But at the same time, it really sends the wrong message culturally, and it undermines lots of other companies who are, sort of like, oh, we have DEI, like we believe in this, but, but, but. So there should be no buts. Thankfully, there are some other companies that are standing up saying, no, we are going to continue these programs because it is important that we prioritize equality, get different voices, different perspectives. This is the way the world should be, and we're going to continue to operate in that way. So people are still fighting the fight, and that's what we all need to do, is continue to fight the fight.
Okay, so on the flip side, like you said, there are several companies like Apple, Google, and Costco that have continued to prioritize DEI initiatives, viewing them as crucial for attracting and retaining top talent, fostering innovation, and serving diverse customer bases. How do you see these companies faring long-term compared to those that have opted to pull back the program?
Yeah, I think faring long-term, I think, they're going to continue to get, let's call it, negative press. Hopefully we will continue to see alternative positive press praising them and announcing the things that they're doing. And, does Apple have anything to fear from the Trump administration? No, I don't. I mean, they have the means by which to fight against regulation, and the means, regulation that's going to come against companies with DEI programs. So, we're fighting the fight. Thankfully, we still have some of these big corporate champions pushing hard on it. We cannot lose sight of this. But look at our university systems, right? So our university systems are scrapping their DEI programs. We're seeing a pushback against, race and gender being a part of the application admission process, which it needs to be in order to bring equality up to where it should be. And so it's, I don't see them faring badly. I see them fighting a fight. The trolls are gonna come for them. But ultimately, all I can do is hope that they prevail. I hope that this push continues to happen. I think for 4 years we're going to see some less than hopeful times, and again, the manosphere is going to rejoice, and the rest of us are going to continue to have to fight the fight and keep pushing, and so that we can somehow get this concept of equality ingrained into the DNA of the U.S.
So, and I was going to add on that. So what are your final thoughts on how DEI might evolve over the next, I had 12 to 24 months, but obviously I'm going to say, 48 or 60 months after the current term is over? So
there's two things to that. So the first is, I think we tend to see cultural change, and this is a cultural change happening too quickly. Women in the U.S., for example, were not allowed to get a credit card in their own name until the 70s. And when you find that out, it's just like, oh, are you effing kidding me? So we're only 50 years away from that, really, right? 50 years is like not even a blink of an eye in historical terms. It's the same thing in the U.S. with civil rights, right? So again, we're only really kind of 70 years away from that. We're still such a young country. This is going to take time, and it's going to have to be driven by people willing to fight the fight and push forward hard and not give up. So people can say like, oh, you're just a DEI hire. You're just this. Hey, shut up. Be kind. Like, just let's start with that. Be kind. If you want to think that, think it. Don't say it. Be kind. And so having kindness as sort of a mantra, hopefully people can start to understand, wow, this person probably has had it a lot harder than I have. How can I help? Like, how can I raise this person up and help them succeed where I've been able to succeed? Like, I should feel thankful for the opportunities I have. Why can't I share that thankfulness with somebody else and help them to succeed as well? So that's really what it's going to be about. Is it's going to be, first off, is this, hey, we're still young, we're still in this fight. It's just not a very old fight. And two, it's, we just have to start being better people to each other. That's really where that's going to stem from for us men, is to just, stop with the testosterone, stop with the manosphere, stop with all that crap. Like, just be kind, be nice. It's not weakness. And that's, a whole nother issue. And if we're kind, I think we can start to see how people have been marginalized, and we can say, like, that's not right. Like, I would like everyone to be, treated equally. So let's change this. So it's, again, and we just gotta keep fighting the fight.
Yeah. So I think the world would be a much better place if everybody could just be kind to one another. I agree.
Yeah, it's, and again, not perfect, right? Sometimes I'm frustrated by things, and we carry things forward into the world, and it changes the way we interact with people. And, be aware of it. It's like, I've had a bad day. Okay. This person's just trying to help me. Like, it's not their fault. And I need to be kind about this. Yeah. If we all did that, and it takes work and it takes effort, like, hey, let's use a Star Wars reference. Like, let's be totally nerdy. It's really easy to be sort of in the dark side, because you can just give in to all that hate and anger, and it doesn't take any work. You just, I'm just angry. It takes work to be good and be kind, because you have to deal with your own feelings of frustration and anger, and understand, like, no, I don't want to be that way. I want to be kind. I want to be good to people. Let's help everyone out.
And add to that, I'll closing out here, because I know we're getting short on time, but it has to be intentional too. And unfortunately, my mom is no longer with us, but she was very kind person. That's the one thing that I would absolutely say about her. So every year, sort of in her honor, when we get into the Lent season, I will write down, like, I keep a list, and I carry on a piece of paper, and I carry it with me, and I do 40 kind deeds during that
That's nice.
time in
Like
her
that.
honor. So I have to be intentional about it. Some days you're not, you don't have the mind space for it, but other days, you can do multiple things. But I do that because I think it's an important thing to do. But anyway, all right. Does anybody have any questions? Because we've taken in a lot today, and this has been phenomenal. But I wanted to open it up and see if we have any questions of those that we have live with us. Anybody put anything in the chat, or they wanted to sort of jump in?
So I think Sonia was asking for the book recommendation, but Florence has already responded on that.
Yep.
Florence, go ahead.
Yeah, I did quickly Google it on Amazon, because I'd love to read that. So I've got a question for you, JT, right? I've not really thought it through, but I'm just gonna say it anyway. So as a woman in the corporate world, what advice would you have to get more allies at place of work? How do I go about it? How do I go about building? Because I think it's about relationship, and it's about connecting.
It is.
How do you, what advice would you have around doing that?
Oh, that's a tough one, right? Because relationships, forming connections and relationships is a time, it requires time. And you only have so much time. So it's like, okay, what part of each of my day can I devote to forming relationships? And I think that's maybe where the first step is. It's identifying the people, in the organization that you think you could develop that kind of connection with, that would lead to having an ally. So for example, I'll give somebody at Sky. I don't know if you know Morad. Yeah, so it's like, where can I find these people? And then, I think, yeah, he would be a great ally. He's very, he's very pro voices and women, and let's be equal. And so connecting with him, and then, kind of creating almost a network of people who are allies, and bringing other women in. So then it becomes a network of allies and people who could benefit from allyship, and are all working together. And maybe it's kind of like, let's go have a lunch, or let's have a Zoom call once a month and talk about, like, hey, how can we improve things for all of us, in the company as a whole. But it is time intensive, right? Because you can't spend your whole day trying to form connections and relationships with people when you're like, I've got this, I've got all this work to do that I have to do. So I would say that would be my one piece of advice, is find those people and make those connections, make it a priority, and maybe it's once a month or something, but foster the connection so that you can begin to sort of spread that that kindness and that love around to a bigger group of people.
Thank you. Maybe I can quickly just share my experience. Like this was like
Yes.
way back, probably say, maybe, I don't know, 10 years back with a micro organization. And I wasn't experienced then, so to say, right? I was just like, blind and just doing stuff. And I went on to, I reached out to one of the senior leaders, right? And he's even a lot higher now. And I think I said something like, I wanted to, I think I was looking for a sponsor, so to speak, right? And his reply to me really resonated, and it was like, I don't know you, right? And he can't sponsor you because he doesn't know you. He needs to know you as a person and your work and how you approach work and what you're able to deliver before he can, so to speak, put his neck on the line for you, right? And that really resonated with me, saying before somebody can sponsor you, you have to build those relationships, those connections. And yeah, I had to learn the hard way anyway from his response, like, I don't know you.
No, and that's really important, right? So again, we talk about this concept of a meritocracy, and I think ideally that's what we would want it to be, right? Everybody is just, there's no skin color or gender has anything to do with selection or decision process. It's all about, are you fit for this job? Do you have the skills? Wow, you look like you have the skills. Great, go do it. And then that whole concept of I want to know what you can do. I just don't know you yet. That's why, again, time intensive is kind of like, okay, how can I help you know me? What, can we work together? Can you put me on a project with you? Like, how can I work with you? And I think that, maybe is that next step. It's like, okay, I totally understand, right? Yeah, I'm not expecting, you have no idea who I am. I'm not expecting you to put your neck out on the line for me, but what can I do so that you get to know me? Because again, like that, it's that I have all this stuff to do every day. Okay, well, this is important. And that's where that leader needs to be like, no, this is important. This is a woman in my organization reaching out to me. We need to empower more women. I need to ask the question, okay, how can I get to know you better? So instead of putting it on the woman, it's putting it on the leader, right? How can I get to know you better? Okay, let's figure out a way that we can work together. Maybe how about we have a 30-minute call every other week, and you just, I talk to you about stuff, you tell me about stuff, and I get to establish that relationship. And then hopefully I can be like, let's figure out a way to carry this forward. So back to that whole, it's got to be internalized, right? So folks like me have to internalize wanting to help.
Thank you.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Florence, for sharing your experience, because
Yes,
it's a two-way process. And listening from, a leader like Jason and listening from your perspective also makes like, kind of correlating how important for us also to reach out to the right people. I have a tough question for you, Jason, and I always, I get this question, and I thought that, this is a great opportunity to ask you. Like, allyship can be hard to measure, and it means the meaning of it is different from person to person or organization to organization. And I would love to know your perspective on that, one piece of advice you would like to give to leaders on how to hold themselves accountable as allies through everyday actions.
Ooh, wow. Yeah, that is a tough question. And the reason it's tough is because I don't hold myself accountable every day, right? So like I said, is, we're not perfect, as we're trying to do our best, right? That's ultimately what we want to feel about ourselves and everybody around us, is like we're all trying to do our best. And so holding ourselves accountable is really maybe taking a check every, maybe it's once a week, it's on Monday. Like maybe, hey, how have I been doing with being an ally? Who have I helped? How have I tried to help? And that requires us to recognize that is, again, not just a checkbox item, but part of the way that we are approaching our business lives. And it reminds me, like, you know what, I think that would be a great idea for me to do. It's like every Monday is to be like, okay, take stock of the week. Like, what do I have to do this week? And then how, as part of what I have to do this week, how am I being a good ally? How am I helping? And then looking for ways that may adjust some of the things I do during the week. I may adjust the way that I do some of the things I do in the week. So I think that's probably the first start in holding ourselves accountable, is recognizing that we are accountable. It's like, okay, I need to pay more attention to this. I need to be thinking about it, consistently in my work day, in my work week, in my work month, and not just, okay, what have I done? Okay, I did this one thing for this person, like, Megan Wagner reached out, sent me a resume. I'm like trying to pass it along. Okay, I got to check the box. Okay, no, it's what else can I do? And again, it's weaving that into the way that I work. How can I change what I'm doing in my work and the way I'm doing it to make me accountable for being a better ally? So it's it's a really hard question. And I think we have to be honest with ourselves. We're probably not doing the best job we can do, and we need to do better.
Yeah, wow, such an honest and impressive conversation. And what an impressive range of achievements. Like, there is so much to learn from you, right? From your publishing novels, coaching youth hockey, and founding the multiple startups, holding over dozens of patents, and your journey is really incredible, inspiring. So I think we're pretty much on the time, and thank you for sharing your experiences with us. As we wrap up this meaningful, insightful AMA session, I want to thank you, JT, for being an awesome ally. I always rely on you for the help, and you always, support us whichever way you can. Thank you, Lisa, for your efforts and fantastic AMA session.
Yes.
It's been a year of collaboration and support, and we look forward to continue this momentum into the future. For more discussions and collaborations, connect with Jason on LinkedIn. You can also email us at allyship@womenintrainingmedia.org. A quick reminder, our monthly remote member meetup is on January 30th, on Thursday at 4 p.m. GMT, 9 a.m. PST, 11 a.m. EST. The next month, we will meet again with an awesome Ally of the Month on Thursday, 20th February. Your feedback is crucial to us. It's so important for us. So let us know what you liked and where we can improve by filling out the Ally of the Month form, which is pasted in the chat window. Thank you again, Jason, once again for your support to Women in Streaming Media Network. Thanks everyone for joining, and see you in the next month.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks. Bye.